No, not yet. No, not yet. Our governor, yes. It's my pleasure at this point to introduce the governor of the state of New Jersey, who's been not only he's first served as mayor of Woodbridge successfully, then as governor of our state. He's a long and dear and old friend of mine, and Governor, it's a pleasure to have you open up our hearing today.
Thank you, Governor. And Governor, if I could, to my right at the table is Mr. Sid Casperson, the Director of the Office of Counterterrorism. To Governor Kane, to Vice Chairman Hamilton, to the Commission members and staff, particularly Governor Kane, again, welcome home, and thank you for your long, dedicated service to this state, and particularly your leadership with Mr. Hamilton as to this commission. The state enjoys the opportunity to share with you our knowledge and our experience. New Jersey was injured deeply on September 11th. We lost nearly 700 of our own citizens. Approximately 1 out of every 4 persons who died at the World Trade Center called the Garden State home. Our lives, our sense of security, our economy were all shaken. But we have worked to take the grief, the pain, and the anger and to channel them into making our state measurably safer. New Jersey, in many respects, has worked to set a national standard for designing and implementing a comprehensive security strategy. In that effort, the private sector has been an indispensable partner. They hold nearly 90% of the critical infrastructure in our state, including the nation's highest concentration of oil refineries, oil storage facilities, and pharmaceutical and chemical manufacturing facilities. No domestic security plan would work without their cooperation and dedicated involvement. And so today, I thank you for the opportunity to share with you some of the ways we're working with the private sector to make our state measurably more secure. Any discussion of the domestic security in our state begins with the New Jersey Domestic Security Preparedness Task Force, which was created in the weeks after September 11th attack. This body, unique to New Jersey, represents intergovernmental collaboration at its highest level. The task force is chaired by the Attorney General and consists of cabinet-level officials charged with significant security responsibilities. These individuals gather regularly to focus on the most pressing security issues confronting our state: counterterrorism, weapons of mass destruction, and bioterrorism, among others. I particularly like to commend former New Jersey Attorney General John Farmer, currently senior counsel to this committee, who served as the first chairman of this task force. The Task Force Infrastructure Advisory Committee is comprised of representatives from New Jersey's 23 industry sectors. The various IAC groups meet regularly among themselves to share information and security strategies. They also meet with the task force and their liaisons in state agencies, such as the Department of Environmental Protection for the chemical sector and the Department of Health and Senior Services for the healthcare sector. During the past 2 years, the task force and the IAC have worked with industry to develop best security practices. These recommendations focused on prevention, mitigation, and response, and recovery from terroristic activities. They include considerations such as site-specific vulnerability assessments, target hardening and mitigation measures, protocols for background checks, protocols related to security, protocols for adjusted security measures based on changes in the Homeland Security Alert System, communication protocols, crisis response, contingency, and continuity plans. In 2002, the IAC sectors all submitted best security practices to the Domestic Security Preparedness Task Force for review. Now, we have embarked upon a second generation of industry best security practices. After they are approved by the task force, they are sent to my office for final approval. In every case, I have directed the appropriate cabinet officer to work with the industry sector and to monitor compliance towards full implementation of best security practices. In this second generation review, we have already approved 10 of 23 recommendations. We are working in partnership with the private industry to get these practices in place as rapidly as possible. We have also established an innovative relationship with business executives for national security. A memorandum of understanding has been drafted between BENS and the State Office of Emergency Management to provide a database of business sector volunteers and resources that could be deployed during an emergency. Working alongside the task force is the Office of Counterterrorism, whose director, Sid Casperson, sits with me here this morning. This office, which I created with the Attorney General's office through executive order last year, under the direction of Sidney Casperson, a 25-year veteran of the FBI, who headed the agency's Office of Intelligence Community Support for New York City, the OCT has taken significant steps towards fulfilling the mandate to identify, detect, and deter terrorist-related activity in New Jersey. As my chief liaison to the federal intelligence and law enforcement communities, the Office of Counterterrorism has forged close ties with the Office of Homeland Security, the FBI, the Department of Energy, and the Transportation Security Agency. This partnership has allowed us to develop unique initiatives like the New Jersey Law Enforcement Counterterrorism Training, which has trained literally thousands of state and local police officers across this state. It has also enhanced our infrastructure protection efforts. For example, if I could praise the efforts of Secretary Ridge, the Department of Homeland Security, we have implemented a buffer zone protection plans for a number of the state's high-risk chemical facilities. To test our plans, we conducted New Jersey's first buffer zone protection plan tabletop exercise. The Domestic Security Preparedness Task Force, the Office of Counterterrorism, are now working with the Department of Homeland Security to expand their training on buffer zone protection to critical infrastructure sites in the chemical and petroleum industries identified by the state. This sort of cooperation is critically important because the private sector has every right to expect the government, state and federal, to approach them in a cogent, unified manner. We need to continue improving the coordination so that we are complementing one another's efforts to strengthen security. OCT is also sharing information and intelligence with the private sector as to potential threats. In the past year, they have sent out more than 80 bulletins and alerts to various industry sectors. They have developed a secure website for infrastructure protection that serves as a statewide clearinghouse for information. And they have deployed a high-speed notification system called the Communicator that automatically sends alerts to an unlimited number of individuals, groups, or teams by phone, page, or fax, and email. Another way we are working with the private sector is through the Medical Emergency and Disaster Prevention Response Expert Panel, MedPrep, under the leadership of Dr. Clifton Lacey. It is a collection of the state's top health experts drawn from a wide range of backgrounds, such as emergency medicine, infectious diseases, as well as hospital care. Through MedPrep, we've become the first state to have a 24/7 bioterrorism rapid response team to provide medical expertise for suspected bioterrorism events. We are the first state to install an 800 megahertz non-interruptible radios in all of our acute care hospital facilities. and the New Jersey Hospital Communications Network interconnects 85 such hospitals with state government and one another, allowing for reliable, interoperable communication in the case of a large-scale terroristic event or natural disaster. We are also including the private industry sectors in our training exercise. The Infrastructure Advisory Committee and the task force created the Domestic Security Exercise Support Team, which has begun exercises and training simulations that incorporate both public and private sector players. The State Board of Public Utilities, for example, has already run a tabletop exercise with water and energy sectors to determine how to best maintain continuity of operations in the face of a terroristic attack. Early next month, the Department of Environmental Protection will be participating in a similar tabletop exercise with our petroleum industry. The Board of Public Utilities is also working with the IAC to review the results of the August 14th blackouts. This incident provided an excellent test case for the new spirit of cooperation between the public and private sectors. Through close communication with the utility, in that case PSE&G, we were immediately able to get the state police resources to support local police services based on information we received from the utility, literally on a minute-to-minute basis. Just this past Saturday, New Jersey and the Port Authority, along with the Federal Office of Domestic Preparedness and 600 local, county, and state first responders from 70 agencies, staged one of the largest full-scale emergency exercises in New Jersey history. The exercise simulated the release of biological and radiological agents at Port Newark. Although we await formal after-action reports, from all accounts, the exercise went extremely well. I mention this exercise because it is a good example of the cooperation needed at all levels to prepare for future acts of terrorism. In closing, I want to emphasize again how critical it is that the private sector, which controls 90% of our state's infrastructure, be involved in all security planning. They hold much of the critical infrastructure in our state and throughout our nation, and we must consult with them early and often. In New Jersey, we have done that, and as a result, we are measurably more secure than we were 2 years ago, and we're working to become safer every day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Governor, thank you very, very much.